Continuing on from those capillaries into the veins, we're going to start with the venules. Now, venules are basically small veins. The venules are what will pick up the blood from the capillaries and start its journey back towards the heart. Now, these venules are very porous. That means they're allowing white blood cells, they're allowing fluids. A lot of things are leaking out of these venules. You're thinking, hold on, that's a bad thing. Not necessarily. Your white blood cells need to get into the tissues around. That's how you fight off infections. That's how you find pathogens or cells that are dying that need to be basically eaten and removed. So this isn't necessarily a bad thing because this is what's supposed to happen. You're saying, well, the fluid's leaking. Well, we haven't gotten there yet, but the lymphatic system picks up this leaked fluid and then dumps it back into the venous return. So yes, it might seem like it's a problem, but it's actually meant to be. It works out very well. It's the way the system works. Now, the post-capillary venules here really are consisting of endothelium, just like the capillaries were, just like the arteries were. But you'll have a few of the podocytes are still around, helping with some structure. But when you get to the larger venules, so as we start to build together, because you'll have one venule, two venules, three venules, they'll all kind of merge to make a larger venule. And it's not always three, it could be two, it could be four, five, whatever. But they keep merging. The more they merge, the bigger they get. The larger the venules get and merging, eventually go to the veins. But now you're going to start to have some smooth muscle as these get to larger venules. Now, it's not nearly as much smooth muscle as was in the arteries because we're not trying to vasoconstrict and vasodilate like the arteries were. But there is still some constriction, some venoconstriction and venodilation. But it's not meant to create pressure necessarily. While your arteries were the high pressure, your veins are the lower pressure system. So looking at the venule, you still have the same three tunics, but you're looking at a smaller tunica externa. Almost nothing for the tunica media there. And that tunica intima looks like it's a cell layer thick, maybe 2 cell layers. So again, these are very small. They're going to build and get larger and larger as they combine back together. So the veins. This is the next step after the venules. So we're heading again back to the heart. So we've gone from the elastic arteries to the muscular arteries to the arterioles, the capillaries, venules. Now we're into the veins. We're almost getting our way back up to the heart here. The veins are what form when the venules converge. You keep building and amassing more and more as they converge. So if you start off with, let's say, pick a number 10, and they converge back and they make 2 large venules. Those 2 large venules converge. They make 1 medium vein. You'll have several medium veins then converging to make a large vein. The idea is you keep converging until you get to only the 2 main veins, superior and inferior vena cava. But now, the veins that correspond with the arteries. So for example, if you have the radial artery and the radial vein, or the brachial artery and the brachial vein, the vein that matches the artery will have a larger lumen, but it'll have thinner walls. The idea is the larger lumen offers less resistance, making it easier for the blood to flow back towards the heart. But the blood pressure is always lower in the veins than they are in the corresponding arteries. I shouldn't say always. 99.9% of the time. There's always that one odd time where there's some disorder or pathology. But really, the veins should be a lower pressure system compared to the arteries. So the arteries are high pressure, veins are low pressure. So the veins, your tunica media, is going to be on the thinner side. Remember, tunica media is where the smooth muscle was. You don't have as much smooth muscle, so you have a smaller tunica media. But then the tunica externa is thicker because that's where the collagen was, the strength, support. So you'll have a thicker tunica externa because there's more collagen helping to create that actual vein itself. So plenty of collagen, add in some elastic, and you end up with your veins. Now, veins are sometimes known as capillary vessels. The idea is they store the blood. Now, no, the blood doesn't just sit there. The blood's constantly moving. But they have more blood in the veins compared to the arteries. Give or take, the veins at any given time will have about 2/3 of all the blood throughout your system. That's capillaries, venules, veins. Once you leave those capillaries, from venules up, they store about 2/3 of the blood. It's still moving. The blood's just moving slower on its way back to the heart. So there's more of the blood in the veins because of the slower movement. Arteries moving faster under higher pressure. Now these veins, though, have some special adaptations that weren't seen in the arteries. These adaptations are helping to get that blood back to the heart. First adaptation is that large diameter lumen I kept mentioning before. The larger diameter means less resistance. Less resistance means it's easier for the blood to flow. You're not losing as much of the pressure. Because once you leave those capillaries, there's no way to regenerate more pressure. Remember, all the pressure in your entire circulatory system is generated by the heart. So you leave the heart, leave that left ventricle, the pressure continuously drops all the way until it gets back to the right atrium. So you have to make sure that the majority of the drop is before the capillaries. You don't rupture the capillaries. But then you only have a very small gradient of pressure from the capillaries to get it back to the right atrium. So the large lumen helps with the lower resistance. Next up are valves. Your veins can have valves. Think of the semilunar valves in the heart, same style. They're sitting here like this. As the blood pushes through, they open. Blood tries to go backwards, it catches. You'll find the majority of the valves in the limbs because the valves are working in conjunction with muscular contraction. So think about your lower leg. Take the gastrocnemius, your calf muscle. It has two muscle bellies. As that contracts, they get tighter and pushed together. That pinches the vein and artery there. As you pinch the vein, the blood wants to go above and below. But with a valve there, it can't go down, it can only go up. So all these muscular contractions throughout your limbs, arms and legs, help by squeezing the veins and pushing the blood through the veins and can't go backwards because of the valves. We also have these venous sinuses. The venous sinus basically is considered a flattened vein. We've talked about one before. Go back to the heart. It was found on the posterior side of the heart, just before it dumps back into the right atrium. Yeah, the coronary sinus. The coronary sinus is a venous sinus. It's meant to collect all the blood from the heart, the actual cardiac muscle of the heart, and dump it back into the right atrium. All right, so here's what you're looking at. This is a large vein and a medium-sized vein. You'll notice the valve is right here. Looks just like those semilunar valves. The blood tries to come back and gets caught. But if the blood is being pushed towards the heart, simply goes right to the middle and keeps on going. So you have those in some of the valves are found in the veins of the limbs. Now that's where they're most abundant. They can be found anywhere in the body. You still have the nice thick tunica externa. That's plenty of collagen. Gives the strength there. And you notice the tunica media is on the thinner side. But we still have the same three tunics. All right. Vascular anastomosis. These can be found in not just the veins, but also the arteries and even the capillaries. What they are the interconnections of blood vessels. So instead of just one single vessel running down my entire arm, for example, or down my leg, you have branches that branch off. It allows for different pathways to be taken. So if one gets blocked because you're holding your arm closed like this, well, think about it. Your actual elbow, as it closes, it pinches certain vessels. Every joint in your body can actually close off and pinch vessels. That's why it's important not to kind of stand in one spot or lock one thing up. It's not efficient for blood flow. The movement is what helps and creates the additional blood flow that your body needs. So we look at these things called arterial anastomomes, basically collateral channels. Allows for other pathways to go through and reach the ultimate endpoint, the capillaries. So a lot of times you'll find them in the joints. I mentioned joints move, they can pinch. The abdominal cavity. Oh, the abdominal cavity doesn't move. You bend over, you bend, think about it, you bend and move around. That's what's allowing the actual organs are twisting, well, not twisting hopefully too much, but twisting a little bit, moving, shifting. That can cause the actual blood vessels to not quite have a perfect flow depending on what position you move into. We then have the vascular shunts of the capillaries. Same idea. You're passing through. Try to make sure there's an alternate pathway there. That's an example of your arteriovenous anastomas. And then you have your venous anastomas. Now these venous anastomas are common because you need plenty of pathways to bring blood back up to the heart. As the muscles move, they pinch one, pinch another, you want to have different pathways. Plus, the more space in the lumen, the lower the resistance, the easier the blood flow is coming back up. So it makes it a little bit simpler that way. So all these anastomosis are all about collateral or alternate routes to get from point A to point B. So if it's in the arteries, it's from heart to capillaries. The capillary itself just gets from artery to vein. In the veins, it's meant from capillaries back up to heart. All about having alternate ways of getting the blood to their ultimate goal. So blood flow. We mentioned already that about upwards of 2/3 of blood can be sitting in the veins at any one time. Yeah, your veins. This is saying 64%. 64, 65, 67, it's all in that range, that mid-60s. It's a lot of blood. It's a lot more than what we have in the systemic for the arteries. So you have plenty of blood being kept in the veins as it's slowly working its way back to the heart. But at any given time, you're looking at roughly about 84% of the blood is in the systemic circulation. Pulmonary is about 9%, which leaves about 7% inside of the heart. So inside the actual chambers there. So a little bit about where the blood's flowing and how it's going there. If you're looking at the histology, again, just like we talked about the tunics, you'll notice the artery has the much thicker tunica media, where the vein barely has a tunica media right there. It's much thinner. You have the tunica externa on the outside, tunica intima on the inside. All three tunics are present in the arteries and the veins. Just a little different composition depending on what they're doing. More muscle in the arteries, more vasoconstriction, more pressure. Less smooth muscle in the veins because there's not as much pressure, not as much constriction. So the structures are dictating what their functions are, or I should say relating to what their functions are. They're all working hand in hand. So a little about the veins and a little about how the branching is working inside of your body.